These are your weather headlines for Friday, January 15th. It is going to be a soggy Friday. There's a flood watch in effect for most of western Washington, and this wet pattern is going to continue for some time. How you doing? I'm meteorologist Paul Diano with your 4W, the Western Washington Weather Webcast. And man, is it going to be wet, especially over the next 24 hours. But we're stuck in this pattern for some time. We have to talk about some major flooding coming to California, and some of you woke up this morning to temperatures in the 60s. I'll explain why in a second. First, back to the graphics. We're going to talk about what's going on. We have a flood watch, heavy rainfall through tonight, so the North Cascades, Central Cascades, and all of the Olympic Peninsula currently under a flood watch with a couple of flood warnings, also for the Port Angeles area and for the Skokomish River and the Dungeness River with flood warnings this morning. Let's take a look at what's going on as to why we have this rainfall out here. It's a tropical plume of moisture. Look at the jet stream. Now, typically when the jet stream just moves from west to east, you get weather which is typical for whatever time of year it is. But right now with this huge dip in the jet stream, and let me show it to you, everything's heading down to the south, going down as far south as Hawaii, then riding up right into the Pacific Northwest. So it's wet, but it's also warm outside, and that tropical tap is going to continue. Your extended forecast, wet today, wet over the weekend, wet into next week, but temperatures dropping a little bit down to the mid-40s as soon as about next Monday and next Tuesday. As I move over here, let's talk about all the rainfall that's coming to California next week. We have a graphic from the Hydrometeorological Prediction Center, the HPC. Here it is right here, and they put it out for just about every day. And you can see the bullseye for Friday and Saturday is the Pacific Northwest. But as we look out into time, especially once we hit about day 3, which is the top of next week, we see the rainfall really picking up in intensity and coverage in and around Northern California and Oregon. And looking out toward day 4 and day 5, you can really see the rainfall pick up now. We're looking at totals anywhere from 5 to 7 inches of rain for portions of California next week. That's going to cause some major problems, so do not be surprised at all if we're going to have some big-time flooding concerns in California as an El Nino pattern will really take over for them. Now, some of you woke up to temperatures in the 60s, but it was only 45 degrees in Seattle. Here's why that happened. Those communities that woke up to temperatures that warm most likely are just to the west of some mountains, most likely the Cascades. As air rides up over a mountain and then comes down, it compresses and dries out. That's called a Chinook wind, and it's compressional heating. And what happened was this morning the winds were coming out of the east over the Cascades. Now think of this in reverse, coming down and warming up. So even though it was 45 degrees in Seattle, places like Puyallup and Carnation and Morton this morning were as warm as about 60 degrees because of that flow of air coming off the mountains. As soon as that stopped, and it did about 10 o'clock this morning, we cooled back down to the upper 40s, and we'll stay right around there for most of the day. But we had compressional heating. We've got flooding going on in the Northwest and California over the next 24 hours, and we stay wet for some time. So enjoy the wet pattern while it's here, because it's not going anywhere anytime soon, and it's going to be breezy next week as well. We could see 1 or 2 major wind events at the coast, one at the beginning of the week and one toward the middle of the week. A lot to cover. Stay dry the next couple of days, or just stay inside if you want to stay dry. That is your Western Washington Weather Webcast for Friday, January 15th. I'm meteorologist Paul Diano. See you next time on the 4W.